Hey, EduMatch family. Thank you so much for being here tonight. We are so excited, so very, very excited to celebrate the release of our newest children's book by my friend Marie. And so we are here to celebrate Marie tonight and the book, My Name Is Not Jamie. And so we're so excited that you're here, that you're going to celebrate with us, and that we're going to find out all the things about this new book that we have out. And so, Marie, if anyone's not familiar with you, which I don't know who, everybody knows who Marie is, but if someone happens to not be, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. My name is Marie. I am an elementary teacher currently at the Ohio State School for the Blind. I am getting ready to teach my 13th year. I'm going to have an awesome group of fifth graders this year. And in my free time, I do a lot of writing and I love to be outdoors. And I'm very passionate about education and children and everything that goes into it.
That's awesome. Now, that's really a unique teaching situation. So can you tell us a little bit more about that? What's that like?
So Teacher for Students with Visual Impairments is a specialized intervention certificate or degree that you can have. I was an intervention specialist before. I worked with students with moderate to severe disabilities, multiple disabilities. And I went back and received my certificate to teach kindergarten through 12th grade students with visual impairments. And that runs the spectrum of students who are considered low vision, mild visual impairment, to students who are totally blind. And so my day consists of teaching typical fifth grade stuff, but also teaching things that students with visual impairments need, such as Braille. I teach Braille. I teach assistive technology to access literacy in the environment. We teach different daily living skills and things like that. So it's a unique position. I love it so much. It's absolutely my dream job. And I'm really thankful and blessed to feel to be where I am.
That's absolutely amazing. And I learned when I was a tech director, we had a few kiddos in our district that had visual impairments. And I learned we didn't have an assistive tech person. So I learned so much about working with them through the process of just needing to order their tech and working through the SPED department and things like that. And it's really such a, Sarah just said, that sounds like really rewarding work, and that it's so amazing to be able to help those students and work with them and see things through just a different lens as they're seeing them. So that's really amazing position. So we're here. So I can listen to you talk about that all day because I think that's fascinating. But we're here to talk about a book, and so we're going to move on to the book. And so, tell us the story behind why you wrote My Name Is Not Jamie. What's the story behind that?
So before I went back and finished my bachelor's degree to become a teacher, I was a paraprofessional in a preschool for students with disabilities. My husband at the time was stationed overseas in Germany. I got a job on base working in the preschool. And we had a little boy in there, and Jamie is his pseudonym, but we had a little boy in there who is the sweetest boy you could have ever met. And he always liked to come in as somebody different. He loved to be Puss in Boots. Like he'd wear these galoshes and he'd tie a towel around his neck. When he'd get mad, he'd be Spider-Man and he'd web us. And
as you should do when you're mad at somebody.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Maria is a great name, Sarah. So he was this great boy, super, super sweet, super imaginative. His dad went deployed. He was, I believe he was a captain in the Air Force. He went deployed, and Jamie stopped pretending. It was this really stark difference in him and how he reacted to his father's deployment. This was kind of the first deployment his dad had that he could really remember. He had been too young for his other deployments, but this was the one where he really kind of realized what was happening and what went on. And so the effect of that had always stuck with me. And I just one day, as I know a lot of authors will say, they feel like a story needs to come out of them, like it needs to like come out of their chest almost. So
you birth it. I mean, it's kind of like your chest. You like birth it. So birth the story. Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yes. And I sat, I thought about this for years, and it really was just one night I just sat down and wrote this story about him. And it was several years after, we had been back in the States and I had finished my degree, and I sat down one night and I wrote it. And that's how it came about.
And that's how, that's a beautiful story. And I love how you didn't actually sit down and write it right at that time. That story stuck with you throughout, some time before you actually were able to, to write it down. And one thing that I love about this book and that it's built around the idea of families being deployed is that there are not a lot of books out there like that for families who, who are in the military and whose parents are being deployed and things like that. And I think that it's such a valuable resource for families to have an array of books that address the feelings that happen when parents are deployed. That's a really important piece of the way military families run. And so, as you know, and so I think that that's a beautiful piece of the story as well. So,
and I would add to that. Oh, sorry. I would add to that too. It kind of falls into this next question. Why is it important? A lot of those books that are out there for military families, for the children, are almost like how-to books, mommy's getting deployed, daddy's getting deployed. Oh, we'll write letters. Oh, I'll get a special bear, something like that, which is great and very important to give some great coping skills. But there are very, very few stories that center on the child and the feelings they go through and the feelings that they may not be able to really process even. When that happens. And it's important. I think it's an important message to get out there for other people to understand that if you're working with military children, a deployment is very difficult. And it's something that children will process in different ways. The child who's had a parent deployed 50 times in their lifetime is going to process it a lot different than the child whose parent is going deployed for the first time. And It's a completely new experience. And it's important also because I think we have more military children out there in regards to even parents in the National Guard and things like that, not even active duty, but parents in the National Guard that go deployed. And we might have military children that we didn't even realize in our classrooms. And they go deployed, and what is their perspective on this? What might they be feeling? And this is obviously just one story of hundreds that could probably be told from a child's perspective on how it affects him or her.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. And I think too, from the standpoint, with Jamie's story, from the standpoint of being a parent, potentially, like the parent who's still at home and understanding what kids, the feelings that kids go to as adults. If I had a partner that was deployed and I'm trying to deal with all my emotions and try to deal with my child's emotions, and to see, we might be able to say, well, I'm really sad that this is happening and I'm really going to miss this person and I'm dealing with a bunch of worry. We might be able to voice that, but kids do things differently and they show it in their behaviors. And so like Jamie, who just stops pretending, that's call for help, right? That's
Yeah.
that's their behavior is based on the emotions that they don't know how to voice. And so even from the standpoint of being a parent and understanding that, know your kid's not going weird because somebody is deployed. They really are just trying to deal with the big emotions that they have. So I think that's important too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, my friend. Well, you have somebody knocking at your door because this is a party and we do have guests.
Yay.
And we even have presents at the end. So if you are watching this and you want to potentially win one of Marie's books, comment away in the comments and we choose the winner from those books from the chat at the very end of the show. And so make sure that you are commenting. The more you comment, the better chance you have of winning. But we also have our friend and co-author, and she's all the things as part of the EduMatch family. Brianne, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Welcome to the show. And tell us a little bit about who you are, Brianne. We know, but just in case somebody else doesn't.
Yes, my name is Brianne Fennell. I am also an EduMatch author, and Marie is my BFF, so I'm so glad to be here and support her. People still say BFF, even if you don't. If they don't, they should. So I'm here to support. I love Sarah's comment right there. That's hilarious.
Little Three's Company reference. I love it.
Marie and I are also Teach Better ambassadors, and so that's another thing that we get to share. But I have known Marie probably, I don't know how old our kids are, but 9 years, probably 9 years. And so it's been awesome to see her join our EduMatch family and see this book in print because I think it's so important for
that is awesome. Yeah, absolutely. I didn't realize sometimes we get authors on here and they're like, yeah, I've known this person for so long and we've been friends for so long. I'm like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that was the case. So what a cool connection. And so I'm so glad that you're here, Brianne.
Well, I should give a huge shout out to Brianne because she was the one. I wrote this story, but I sat on it. And Brianne was the one who said, you have to get this published. You have to do this. And I was like, no, I can't do that. But she was like, no, you can. And you're going to. And Brianne is my person. So
absolutely. I understand that one that like you walk to the edge, like almost to the edge, and they like just give you that little push. Yeah, I totally understand. That's so awesome. So Brianne, what do you think about the story? What do you think about the book, especially since you've known about it for so long?
Absolutely. I think that this book is amazing. When I first read the book, like Marie said, it was a story that kind of just stuck with me. And that's why she writes stuff and sends it to me all the time. But this story was special because I was like, what was that one book that you wrote? Like, I've really been thinking about it a lot. And I described it. She was like, oh yeah. And then, kind of developed it from there. And we talked a little bit of changing the name of the child, just to protect them and all those things that you don't really think about going into a story that's part of your life. And so, but I think that those are some of the best stories, the ones that we lived this life and, we're not there now, but it's something that shaped us into who we are. And so I think Marie and herself and her character and her education career has just evolved. And I think that this story is a great time to release it, a great representation of just how closely she pays attention to her students and advocates for them. Mm-hmm. I mean, just to even notice that change in behavior, some educators might be like, well, they're having a bad day and, dismiss it. But knowing, the inner workings of your families and your students can make a huge difference. And I know, Mandy, you're so big on teacher mental health and the health and wellness of students. And so I think that is really where this story is coming from.
Yeah. Yeah, I so many good points in there. So one of the other things that I love about the book is that he goes from being creative to not.
Mhm.
And the reason I think that's important is because you could have looked at that like he went from being a little crazy to compliant, right?
Mhm.
And you might have ignored that because he's, not as, I don't know if flamboyant is the word, but he's not as creative, he's not as showing his personality as much. And when kids get more compliant, we tend to like that because they're doing what we say and they're not causing a ruckus. I think it's more typical for kids to go from being compliant, having a change, and then getting to where their behavior is a little different, a little more creative, a little crazy. And that's where we start to notice it. And then we're like, hey, what's going on at home? Because the behaviors are up in the classroom. And so what I just backing up what you said, Brianne, about Marie knowing her students so well, that's really a testament to that, because it sort of went the opposite way. And so I love that. I love what you said. And it is, again, such a testament to Marie and understanding her kids and what they need at that time. So that was fantastic. Absolutely. All right, my friend. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate you.
Thank you. Congrats again.
Thank you.
What do you have on the horizon?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I might have a little,
You
I have a little visitor, actually. No, I do have something in the works with Sarah. I'm so excited about releasing another book with EduMatch, and I don't want to take any of Marie's time away from her wonderful book to talk about it, but I can't wait to share with you guys soon.
Yeah, we'll be seeing you soon. Thank you.
Bye, friend.
All right. So I love Brianne. She's absolutely wonderful. One of the nicest people I know by far. So I was so glad that she was able to join us tonight. And we have, I just love this book. I love hearing about it and talking about it. So what, we talked about military families a little bit, but who really is the target audience for My Name Is Not Jamie, outside of maybe military families?
I think it's a relatable story to a lot of children. So maybe not the deployment factor, but hey, there's a big change in my life and I don't know how to process this. It doesn't necessarily have to be a deployment. Parents getting a divorce and one leaving the house, is a very big reality for many of our students. And that can be relatable. And I think the target audience question is always so interesting to me because people think children's books are for children. But I'm an adult and I love children's books. We go to the library about once a week, or we try to, and I go straight to the children's book section. Because I want to see what's out there. I want to read these books too. Because they're usually these great stories that you may not get anywhere else as well. But I think it's good for teachers to have on hand as just kind of like what you said. Like a lot of our students, when there's a big change, a lot of them go out. They go almost explosive. Mm-hmm. They go external with what they're going, because they don't know where to put these feelings, so they're just going to put them all out there. Yeah. But we do have those students who go internal, and it's more quiet. And hi, do you want to say hi? Yeah, the son is standing right off camera.
Aww. Hey, buddy, how you doing?
Good.
What's your name?
My name is Jay.
Jay.
Your name is Jay. It's so nice to meet you, Jay. So what grade are you in?
I'm going into fourth.
Mm-hmm. Going into fourth grade. Awesome. That's the best grade. That's the grade I used to teach, and it was my favorite grade ever. So fourth grade is an amazing grade.
I can't wait for middle school because I want the lockers, right, and the changing classes,
yes,
and the free time.
In the free time.
The
I don't
free
know if
time.
the free time you think is coming.
Mid-
At least there is.
Middle schoolers don't have recess. So
Yeah.
there's not as there. I know. Isn't that awful?
It
But
is.
you do get lockers. So
Mhm.
there's like the trade-off, I guess.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
Yeah. All right. Well, you have an amazing 4th grade year, okay?
Meet.
He's my character. Speaking of kids who go out. But yeah, just to kind of finalize that thought, some of our students do go internal, and it's important to see that change in them when it happens, because it is way less noticeable.
Yeah, absolutely. Those internal processors that you don't necessarily, I'm sort of an external processor. So if I have to process something, you're going to hear about it and you're going to hear about it over and over and over again until I have processed whatever that is. But yeah, absolutely. Those kids that internally process and the ones where you can see their wheels turning sometimes, those you have to pay special attention to, because they're not the loud ones necessarily when they need to process a big emotion, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So let's see. So I feel like we've talked about this, but let's be explicit about it a little bit more. So how does My Name Is Not Jamie address the mental health and the social emotional needs of students?
I love this question, because there's actually I've noticed a rise lately in children's books that are dealing more with big emotions for kids, and big situations, and how does this affect them? And so, in this way, it kind of wakes you up to that, hey, there's a behavior change in this child. He went from this like outgoing, super creative, super imaginative kid to super solitary, quiet, almost like turtle shelled into himself. And so it kind of gives that awareness to not only the change that might happen, but also these kids are feeling really big things, and justifiably so. The deployment of a parent is so much different than, a deployment is so much different than dad going on a business trip. My dad traveled a lot when I was growing up, but he traveled for business. He wasn't deployed in the military, where there's kind of this, it's not always danger, but there's kind of that like almost like haze, almost like underground understanding that it could be at some time. And, really, we lived in a very safe place, and his dad ended up being deployed to a very safe place. But it's that unknown, it's that uncertainty. And so bringing awareness to, the bigness of it, and how do we perceive that as adults for them, and then how do we help them through it as well? Yeah, and I also think like the media doesn't help with that, right? Like when we hear people going overseas, or going, the media and movies and things portray that as always war and always something bad happens, and we know that that's not necessarily true. However, like you said, there always seems to be sort of an undercurrent of uncertainty when it comes to those types of things, and that's the one thing that makes it a little bit different than a business trip or even a divorce. Really, we still have to deal with those big emotions and that separation and that uncertainty, but there's not a level of an undercurrent of danger with it, which does make it a little bit more specific to deployments. But also, I think from the standpoint of, like you said, helping kids understand things like self-awareness.
X happened and I'm reacting in this way. Is this a healthy way to react? Is there a different way that I can react besides going into my shell? Would it be better to talk to somebody else? Is that what's going to work for me? Having those, those self-awareness, self-management type of discussions. And then also, even from the standpoint of, if we're going to look at like the CASEL competencies, for example, the piece of the social piece and being able to voice, I need help.
Yes.
I need, assistance managing my emotions. I need to talk to somebody, and how they can talk about their situation to their peers to help them understand. I think all of those are a really important piece of the social emotional learning, social emotional support that could come from this book.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And, with the voicing for help, it's especially hard, and Jamie in the book, he's a little, you never know what grade he's in, but he kind of presents as an elementary, a little maybe middle to older. Our Jamie, our real life Jamie was 4. He was 4. And so trying to voice that, is so hard for a child that age. They don't know how to say, I'm having a hard time with this. I need help. Even Miss Daddy, they don't know they don't know that even saying that would help their brain feel better.
Sure.
So, absolutely.
Yeah. And there's actually a really fantastic SEL that I think would go well with this. It's an LCL document by the Department of Public Instruction for the state of Wisconsin. And it's aligned to the CASEL competencies. And what it does is it breaks down what students should be able to do in terms of emotion and self-awareness by grade level and by age. And so, for example, at most, potentially a 4-year-old might be able to say, I am sad. Just getting them to name the emotion, the very basics, the very simplest emotions, being able to get them to name that would be a win. And so I think from that standpoint, in reading this book, helping students just go through and name the emotions that might be happening to Jamie as he goes throughout the book.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for
sure. I know
sure.
Dan and I are like, oh, this would be great to teach, like in our classroom.
Yeah. Now, have you used the book in your teaching at all?
I don't use the kind of theme or content that's in the book. But how I use the book is so many of my kids, especially kids with visual impairments, writing is very difficult. And they do not see themselves as writers themselves. And so I actually use the book to kind of be like, anybody can be a writer. And I don't tell them I've written a book. I don't tell them that I'm an author. I do it. I surprised them on World Read Aloud Day. I said, I have a special book I want to read to all of you. I said, the author sent it to me special and I want to read it to you. And I said, the title of this is My Name Is Not Jamie and it's by Marie McCumber. And I opened the title and it was like a beat. One of my students went, wait, because I have 5th grade students. Wait, isn't your name McCumber? And I'm like, you've been with me for 6 months, I think. And he's like, is she related to you? And I'm like, kind of, yeah. And so I start reading it and then they're like, wait, weren't you on a military base? And it was like, they started connecting these dots and then they're like, oh my word, you're a writer, you're an author. And they think it was amazing. And so then I can actually tie in pieces of being an author, right? We draft and we revise. And sometimes we cry over it. And like, you know, I use my book and kind of that. This is the process of writing. And this is how you become a writer. And then they start seeing themselves as writers, and they start seeing their kind of their world opening up, and, you know, how they can use writing more. And my class last year especially loved stories, loved for me to read them stories. So I read the story, and then they would read my kids who could read large print would read it themselves. So
yeah, that's amazing. I love how, and Sarah had remarked the same thing. Absolutely loved how you use that as, you know, I mean, we talk all the time about modeling stuff for our kids, right? Mm-hmm. There's no more powerful way to model writing for your kids than to become an author and actually write something, especially when, you know, I also do not see myself as a writer. I've never seen myself as a writer. To say I'm an author is actually kind of crazy. It seems almost like an ironic statement, because there was never any intention of actually writing. And I think that when you do become an author, especially when you never had the intent of doing that, it really does feel like, look, guys, literally anybody can do this.
Oh yeah.
If I can do it, any of y'all can do it too, because you know, it's something that all you need, the drive, you need the ability to be able to cry sometimes, and you need people who love you and support you, and that's pretty much it. So and Sarah said we're all fantastic authors. So and so tell us a little bit, actually we're getting over time, so very quickly, tell us a little bit about any other projects that you have going on.
So I have 2 other drafts that I've submitted to EduMatch, 2 more picture books that I'm hoping that EduMatch will love as much as they love Jamie. And I am also in the middle of writing a young adult novel about a teenage girl whose mother is dying, and it's a story about her and how she's coping with kind of her life as a teenager, where everybody else is doing teenager things, and she is dealing with her mother dying and how that affects her.
Wow, lots of SEL books then. Lots of big emotion SEL books.
Yes.
Well, that's amazing. We need people to be willing to take on those tough conversations and give students an outlet, you know, and a learning opportunity in their reading. So kudos to you. Thank you so much. And we're actually 3 minutes over. This time went so fast. I can't even believe it. And so we have our winner of our giveaway tonight is Carly Spina. She is going to win a copy of your book. Carly, please reach out to Marie so that you can give her your information for shipping that book out. So we're so happy that you are here. If you are looking to purchase Marie's books, you can find them at bit.ly/Jamie Paper. You can find them on Amazon. You can find them on our website at EduMatchPublishing.com. And we, again, congratulations, Marie. We're so happy for you and so excited about the book. Thank you for celebrating with us tonight.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate it so much.
All right. And audience, thank you for being here. Have a wonderful night.